Boop. Happy Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, October the 5th, 2022. Today's daily Bible readings come to us from Psalm 137, Lamentations 5, 1 through 12, Mark 11, 12 through 14. Skips a really important part, and then 20 through 24. More on that in a moment. Or you could have read Psalm 3, Habakkuk 2, 12 through 20, and then Mark 11, 12 through 14 again. Skips a really big part again. And then 2024. In the case you haven't figured it out yet, I'm going to look at Mark 11, 12 through 14, skips a really big important part, and then 20 through 24, and talk about getting figgy with it. So Jesus was big on fruit. He really liked his fruit. He liked to just see it. He liked to enjoy it. He liked to see others enjoying fruit, producing fruit. So he was big on fruit. He seems to have had a thing for figs. They show up in his, parable about the barren fig tree that we see in Luke, where, like there's this, guy who owns a vineyard because, he's just that way. And the guy who actually does all the work from the vineyard, there's a fig tree going there, and it's not really bearing much fruit. And the bougie guy who owns the vineyard's like, just cut it down. And the guy who actually knows what's going on is like, well, give me a second to do some stuff with it, and if it doesn't bear fruit, no big loss, we'll just cut it down. You've lost maybe a year, just give it another season. I guess bougie isn't a good idea because the guy in the story is God, but anyway, I'm just thinking about people who might own vineyards today. So anyway, he does that in Luke. He points to the vineyard, to the fig tree in Luke as a sign of the times. In other words, like when you're looking at a fig tree and you see what the fig tree is doing, you know what time of year it is. Well, take a lesson from that and figure out what's going on based upon what you see going around you. He even finds one of his disciples, Nathaniel, hanging out under a fig tree. So that's in John. You can go look that up yourself. So anyway, though, in Mark, though, things get pretty serious with this fig tree. This also shows up in Matthew, but a little bit differently. Jesus is on his way into Jerusalem to visit the temple when he comes across this tree, and he gets excited, thinking, he might find himself a tasty nom-nom here in this fig tree, but he doesn't. He doesn't find anything. It says all he finds on it is leaves. That's all there is. But of course we're told it wasn't the time of the year that it should even be bearing ripe figs. Wasn't that season. But Jesus curses it anyway, saying, no one will eat figs from you again. It seems kind of harsh, right? Wow, Jesus, that was kind of unfair, kind of unreasonable, right? Well, here's the funny thing about figs. And I say this because I actually have gotten into growing fig trees. Yeah, I know it's a weird thing, but they're really easy to grow and you get figs. So, hey, it's a win-win situation. If you hear trucks and stuff going by, that's because it's gorgeous today and I have the windows open. So, but anyway, funny thing about fig trees is that a fig can actually carry over figs from the previous season. So it's not unreasonable to walk up to a fig tree early in the season when it's just gotten leaves on it, or a couple of months before it should even be bearing figs, and expect to maybe find a couple of figs here and there. They wouldn't be the best figs, right? But they would be some figs, fig. Just thought I'd say the word again. So it wasn't unreasonable for him to be looking, but Jesus finds nothing but leaves. Here's the other thing I've noticed about fig trees. You can actually tell where the figs are going to come out before the leaves are really even fully out. You see the little nubbins, just a fun word, where the fig will come out. So even the buds would still be there. You might be able to see something, but it, even though it may not have been the season to harvest figs, the figs have to start sometime, and you can tell that. So he's looking at this tree, and yeah, it's taking up space. It's got great leaves on it, but there's not even a hope of figs on this tree. So, you've got to grow figs before you can harvest them. So I'd say it was there was just no hope of it at all. So looking for fruit and then finding no fruit And then here's the part that they left out of today's reading. I'm not really sure why they always do this, because this is really kind of a big, important, one whole big story, a pericope, if you were, as far as I'm concerned. That in Mark, it's bookends. Like it's, you've got this bookend on one side of where he finds the fig tree, and a end on the other where he sees the fig tree again the next day. And together they're holding up this story of him going to the temple and cleansing it. So Jesus, and this part is left out of today's reading. Like I said, not sure why, but he heads to the temple and he doesn't find any of the fruit he should expect to find. And in fact, he just finds bad fruit. It's not just there isn't any fruit, or isn't like fruit that's, it'll do. Like, like the first figs that kind of wintered over. He just finds bad fruit. You can go and read that section yourself, that section in, from 15 to 20. He just finds bad fruit. So after shaking things up a bit, Jesus heads back out, to his Airbnb outside the walls of Jerusalem for the night with his bros. And the next day, they come across the same fig tree, and it's all withered up. Like in Matthew, they tell the story, but it happens like instantaneously, and it's like kind of set apart from him going to the temple. In Matthew, it's go to the fig tree, don't find any fruit, don't find hope of fruit on it. Go to the temple, just find bad fruit, and possibly no hope of any good fruit ever. The next day, the fig tree is withered. Now, if the story of the temple and its bad fruit is bookended by the bad news for the fig tree, what do you think it says might be in store for the temple? Anyway, that's the DBR for today. Get out, enjoy the day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Boop.